live from Huntertown, Indiana. It's Soarin Hawk on the air. Yay!
Yay!
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Boy, well, we had a few people here scared the heck out of the turkey vulture. But said, what happened? So, anyway, so new topic for today. Another one of these ones that I've gotten into that I, took on a bigger topic that I knew what to do with. But we're going to try this. What do you see you drinking there?
Oh yeah, I shouldn't wear the white shirt. See, I reflect too much.
Got too much glare in this thing. Can you turn on lights? Boy, the Soarin Hawk Philharmonic has never sounded better.
Yeah.
You did a good job on that. Thanks a lot.
Is that our new theme song?
Let's work. Come on. There you go. Ooh.
Ooh.
Ooh. Ooh.
Ooh. Wow.
Oology.
Oh.
I've never heard of it.
We have a little bit of fun. So, oology is the study of eggs, particularly bird eggs. And this has been going on for centuries. I mean, it started all the way back with the Greeks, Aristotle and those guys studying eggs, wondering what was going on, why there were so many differences, some variations. Why some were big, some were small, some were round, some were square. Well, that was only the bird, which is no longer existing. But so no square eggs. So,
Oh, wow.
so bird eggs. Bird eggs are one of the most complex reproductive cells achieved in evolution of animal sexuality. I didn't make that up. That was Gill and Prum. And don't forget, we do have some nice ornithology books here that you can read all this stuff. Okay. Bird eggs, they come in a variety of sizes, shapes, colors, textures, and development. So I'm going to try to get down to some of the basics about the eggs and why they're important and why they're different. And, so bird eggs. Bird eggs are, as the differentiation from reptile eggs, and I guess mammal eggs, have developed eggshells to protect the embryo from soil invertebrates and microbes. So basically, reptile eggs, if you've ever picked up a turtle egg or snake egg or some of those, they're real flexible. They don't have a shell per se on them. And these are usually buried in the ground or in the mud or something like that. And so they're subject to predation, if you will, by worms and different kinds of critters and microbes that can get into them and infect them and prevent the embryo from growing. Eggshells also serve a purpose in that they allow gas exchange from the outside, from the embryo into the atmosphere, and from the atmosphere into the embryo. So it allows that exchange. We humans and mammals and stuff like that get that exchange through blood connections, and so we get oxygen that way. We give up our carbon dioxide that way, and also by having a shell, you minimize water loss. Whereas like the reptiles and stuff, they always bury theirs in the ground or in mud, and so they don't have that water loss. So they're exposed to water. So this is a basic egg, and let's see, Bob's going to have to put on his glasses. So we're used to looking at an egg, and it's just this nice elliptoid type thing that has a white shell on it. And if we look inside, we open it up. There's white parts, and there's oh boy, okay, float that right in there. Okay, so we have the shell on the outside, and the shell has a cuticle on it. Okay, that covers it. It's like a protective coating, and then underneath that is the actual shell that's made of calcium carbonate, and that's the part that we see. So sometimes you see the white part. In fact, all eggs are white before they get colored. So it's just kind of like Easter time. You have to wait and see what comes out. So we have the shell, and then inside you have an outer shell membrane. Okay, and that basically forms a barrier which allows gases to pass in or out. So it lets the CO2 out and lets the oxygen back in. And then there's an inner shell membrane which basically comes around and goes around the white part of the egg. And then inside the white part of the egg, contained within it is the yolk. And the yolk is made up of two parts. I was kind of surprised to find that out. There's a yellow yolk and there's a white yolk, and those come in layers as the egg develops, and they go out. So if you could look at it, you would actually see it's a whole series of rings as the embryo is developing, and you have that big yolk, and then of course that yolk then tends to feed the embryo as it grows up. Let's see, what else do we have? We have the albumin, okay, that's the white part. So you have different layers of that, and the nucleus here. And this is, okay, nucleus of the panda, the germinal disc, okay, so this is where the embryo starts. That's the fertilized part of the egg right there. And let's see what else. And we got the internal, and then we got an air sac which acts to cushion the egg as it's developing. So as it's moved around, that kind of thing. So there's a little bit of cushion in there and allows the egg to slide around. So I hate to get into this part. This is where I get really in trouble. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I know. So it's so we're going to look at the, if you will, the sexual organs of the birds, and they're quite a bit different than us, we humans. Basically, the alimentary system of the birds is all one continuous thing. So you start up here with the mouth, and it goes down. Food goes down the esophagus, goes through the stomach and the intestines, and then it going out the large intestine and out through the cloaca. All right. Tied to that is the kidneys. All right. They tie right into that same tube, if you will. And then also tied into there is the sexual organ. So the vagina is here on the female, and on the male, the testes are internal, and they feed right into that same channel or canal, if you want to call it that. So everything is in one tube, and so it's basically right from the mouth right to the tail end. So it's in some ways it's much simpler than our system. On the other hand, it's really kind of complicated because much of this is all controlled by hormones, and the hormones are controlled by external factors such as the weather, changes seasons, bird songs, all kinds of things. So those cause changes here in the adrenal glands, and then that, of course, then causes things like the testes here don't enlarge until the springtime, until the certain hormones are produced, and then they enlarge. Otherwise, they basically disappear, and you don't see them. Same way the ovary is sitting there. It has all these eggs already established, and they're all ready to go, but nothing happens until mating occurs, and mating doesn't occur until the hormones are produced and things get started. On to the next one. Okay, so essentially what happens is you have a mating, which they call the coital kiss. It's very brief usually, and sperm goes into the tube here, goes up here to the egg, fertilizes the egg, and then it's really interesting, this infundibulum right here, that actually moves back and forth and catches the egg, kind of anticipates and kind of sits there and catches the egg, actually forms a funnel, and then the egg starts coming down, the fertilized egg starts coming down through the tube here. And as it comes down through the tube, layers of albumin are put around the egg, and and more of the egg is enveloped, if you will. And you get to a certain point where you actually get the shell is processed. So this takes about a day to go through all this whole process of coming down through here. And then as this progresses, the egg progresses down through the channel. This is where it goes to the Earl Scheib event, where it gets painted. So it gets its coloration. So it's the calcium carbonate is basically white. There might be some variations of tone depending on what the bird's been eating, but that's what it needs. But when it goes down through the end process, the last few hours, it's when it gets the coloration added to it. And that's why I said Earl Scheib, going down through there. So you got to be from the East Coast for Earl Scheib, right? Okay. Okay. And then it comes out and is laid. So this gives you kind of an idea of the development. This is kind of a simplified picture of the whole thing. So basically you have your hen there. This is a chicken, I guess. It looks like a chicken. Okay, so anyway, here you start off at the beginning here with the ovary producing the eggs. You have a zygote that's produced. That's the fertilized egg. And then you're starting to get your repetitive cell division, just like in people and mammals and things like that. And then as it goes down through the channel, okay, you start adding the protective layers, the albumin, things like that. And we'll get into some of this stuff a little bit later. And then as it goes down through, then it gets the shell added to it. And it gets, like I said, coloration for certain birds. Some birds it just stays white, or brown eggs, or whatever the species decides. And then after that, the chicken sits on top of it, incubates it, warms it up to a certain temperature where the embryo starts developing. And then the embryo grows and grows until it gets to a certain size where it says, hey, it's too tight in here, it's time to get out. And it pops a hole in the wall of the egg and pops out, and mom says, where'd that come from? So that's a basic flow of how the how embryos develop and how chicks are born. So a little bit more detail on looking at an egg and with the embryo in there. So here's basically your embryo, and it develops, it grows larger and larger and larger, and there's some pictures of that a little bit later on. It feeds off the yolk here, okay, the vitellus, all right? So that's right there. But the interesting thing is that the egg is constructed in such a way that there are things that protect the embryo. So up in here you got the amnion, and that's like a protective barrier that goes around the embryo and protects it from the rest of the egg, if you will. So you have that. You have I guess I could go back out further. You got the shell membrane. You got albumin around here, which does not provide any real food. It's just a transmitting thing. Transmits the gases out. Also, it takes care of excretia. And it was interesting that the excretia actually turns into little crystals. It's ammonium nitrate and forms into little crystals, and if you will, gets caught into the sac there, so it doesn't impede the ammonia doesn't develop and choke or kill the embryo. So you have that going on. So the ammonium nitrate crystallizes out. So you have this barrier here, and then you have another barrier, chorion, which covers the yolk and the embryo. Okay, so that's all completely covered. So you have that, and then there's a allantoic. Boy, I tell you, I don't know who came up with all these words, but anyways, this fluid that then surrounds the whole thing. So you have protection within protection within protection. And so it's a really interesting system that's going on there. And again, you got the airspace down here. And so we have the basic, if you will, embryo. And this is about true on all the birds. So here's these embryonic membranes that we're talking about. So the amnion surrounds the embryo, so that protects that. And then the chorion contains all the embryonic structures. In other words, the yolk, the embryo itself. Those are all protected. And then you have the allotonic sac, and that it functions for the respiration and excretion. So it takes care of those. So carbon dioxide goes out, oxygen comes in, excretion forms into crystals, and is captured in the allotonic sac. Boy, I tell you, I can really butcher things like this. So here's a chart of a chick embryo development, and this is pretty well true for most birds. So basically, you just start off with your normal egg, and it gets, fertilized, and then it just proceeds along. And you can see that the embryo is starting to develop, and it starts off, and you get more of this cell division, and so it's starting to take on the appearance, and you can see it develops more and more. And the one of the things I couldn't find out for sure was what develops first, and so anyway, but you can see that it starts getting developed to a point where, well, it's just kind of like humans. When you look at the X-rays, you can look and say, "You sure that's a kid?" It looks like a fish in a water tank. So anyway, so it develops along, and pretty soon you can start seeing that it actually is developing, and you can also see that the yolk is disappearing.
Yeah.
So it's the yolk is now being converted into chicken, and so slowly grows up until it gets to a point where it's fairly well developed. Now it varies in different birds, because some birds, the atrial ones that we have, like the songbirds and things like that, they essentially hatch out naked. Okay, they don't have any feathers, or very few, little bit of feathers. Whereas birds like chickens, they come out, they're precochial. Okay, and those guys are ready to go as soon as they come out of the egg. They're ready to go find some food and that kind of thing. So you get different development depending upon the type of birds they are. So your basic birds like ostriches and red tights and grouse, chickens, things like that, ducks, those all tend to have huge yolks, okay? And the chick is well developed when it comes out of the egg. Whereas other birds, if you look at them, like most of the songbirds, they come out, they're almost naked. Some, and then in between there are some other birds like seabirds and things like that that come out partially feathered, but they're not able to take care of themselves, because seabirds, they feed on fish and stuff, so there's nothing there to pick on or eat or that kind of thing. So so like our little our killdeer out here, when they hatch out, they're ready to run.
Yeah.
Okay, so so they're
funny.
up and gone. Whereas but like our birds here, like our raptors, they're going to take a little bit more care. There's going to be a while before they you saw Monet there at the beginning. Comes out and has some feathers on him, but not capable of taking care of, not ready to catch mice yet. Yeah. So this gives you an idea of the different types of birds and the size of the yolk. So here, like I said, the atrial birds like waxwings and things like that have a small yolk. It's only about 20% of the egg, whereas some of the things like kiwi, okay, is basically, what does it say down there, 70%? So a kiwi lays a large egg, which has a large yolk in it, and when that kid comes out, he's ready to go, okay? Yeah. So he's got that nice long beak, and he does his little dance to simulate rain, and the worms come up, and there he goes, probing for his things. Mm-hmm. But like the malleefowl here, malleefowl doesn't see anybody, basically the malleefowl buries its egg in a leaf pile. The leaves decompose, keep the egg warm, and babies hatch out. They pop out of the ground and gone. Okay, so there's some interesting things that go on. So some of the birds, but again, what happens though is that the incubation time though on like the songbirds is a much shorter time than it is for things like the kiwi. Mm-hmm. So the kiwi is going to be 2-3 times longer than a songbird. Mm-hmm. So there's different variations. So you you give up certain things, okay, you take certain risks depending upon your life cycle. So if these songbirds, they have a certain period of time in which to have their offspring to raise them up to maturity, or at least to a point where they can take care of themselves. And so that happens very rapidly, if you will, on time things. Whereas like the kiwi there, it takes a long time for that to incubate. And so it's going to be a while before that comes out. So it's that egg can be sitting in the ground for about 180 days.
Wow.
And so it takes a while. So all these different things. So you give up certain things. So the kiwi lives in a fairly stable environment. Okay, it doesn't change a whole lot. Okay, if you go down to New Zealand, where the kiwis are, basically it stays temperate all year round. So they can afford to do that. The mallee fowl there in Australia, it's out there. It's kind of down in southern Australia, so it does have a season, but it's out there in the, if you will, semi-desert, if you will, or if you want to call it that. And so it has a season that's fairly long, and the temperatures where it is essentially at, what is about 1,000 feet maybe at the high end of altitude, but it's basically flat and open and that kind of thing. So the risk trade-off is what detects or determines what the birds do, or how nature takes care or favors one thing over another in the development or evolution of these birds. So egg sizes. There's different size eggs, and so egg size basically increases with the size of the bird, which is what you would expect. But small birds produce larger eggs relative to body mass. So I hope this isn't our people already.
Oh, yeah, I'll go.
Okay, sorry. They're early. Okay. So, anyways, the small birds tend to have eggs that are about 17% of larger eggs. Or what is it? Small birds produce larger eggs relative to their body mass. About 17% of their body mass it goes into their egg. Whereas large birds, like an ostrich or something like that, it's only about 2%. So the mass or the size of the egg is relatively inverse to the size of the bird. Even though that an ostrich egg, you can put it has about 2 or 3 quarts of yolk in there, enough to feed a few people. So, anyways, so essentially, what you can say is atracheal birds produce smaller eggs, and precochial birds produce larger eggs. And you can see that. You look at the duck eggs that we have around here, even our hawks. Okay, you look at the size of those eggs; those are fairly good sized eggs. So egg shapes. Why are some of the eggs different shapes? Some are spherical. Those are petrels, owls, and kingfishers. So a spherical egg, okay, has a stronger shell strength, right? It conserves more heat, and also it conserves the amount of material. So because it's all round, so it's a little more compact. And petrels and owls and kingfishers, those are can be burrowing or cavity roosting birds. So petrels and kingfishers have a burrow in the ground, and so those things are out of sight and down there, and they're round, and so they just sit there in the nest. Whereas other birds, like the pyriforms, or have piriform shaped eggs, and which basically means pyramidal shape. So it's fatter on one end and narrow on the other end. And so plovers, murres, auks, they tend to have those, and they theorize that this is made on purpose so that it maximizes the coverage area of an incubating adult. So the adult can sit on there, and so all the ends of the eggs all point together, and then the adult can sit on top and incubate. So you have that kind of thing. And then you have, right in between, you have the ellipsoidal types of with grebes and pelicans and bitterns. Some other things that's interesting about egg shapes. There's a lot of theories that go on to these things. Like I think, like here, they have some of the auk family, and I don't know, I guess some guy working on his PhD or something decided that he would look in, and what he discovered was that the MERS will have the ones with the pointed eggs don't roll off cliffs as much as other auks. Okay, so he took a study and he discovered that if you have a nice pointed end, what happens is the egg doesn't tend to roll around, and so it kind of stays in place, and so it doesn't roll off the cliff. You know, whereas like the auks here, well, they tend to be more rounded and they tend to roll off cliffs. So it's kind of like, okay, that sounds like a good theory. You know, so somebody was working on his PhD and got that done. So you know, so there's one of the theories. But whoops, I'm gonna go back here. Let me go back. Went back. Where's back? Where's back? Previous. Okay. So, anyways, some other theories about the thing is, like I said, the round ones don't roll around, and so that'd be like the owl nest or something like that because they're going to be contained. So they will be all right that way. And then there's some other strange things that happen with shapes, but those are two of the things that stood out was that the round ones, they stay put, or if there's a cavity or something like that where they can't fall out, and then the others are elliptical, and you know. So anyways, then they come up with egg color. Eggs are colored, you know, for camouflage, for one thing. You know, you can go out there if you happen to find a killdeer nest out here, you find these little white speckled eggs out there. They really blend in with the gravel and things. One of the theories is that the egg color, dark colors absorb heat, but I haven't quite figured out how that works if you have a nest and it's all covered up. But another one of these things that a PhD graduate came up with. But they think that one of the things by having different colors, you can recognize if somebody dumped their eggs in your nest, you know, like a cowbird or something like that. So you would, you know, so if you have a robin's nest with nice blue eggs and you have a cowbird egg with, you know, it's kind of a brownish color with a lot of speckling on it, you would recognize the difference and you would kick it out. Okay. One of the things is that where you have colonial nestings, like seabird nests, you know, where you have a lot of seabirds together, or where you have albatrosses or terns or gulls and things like that, that they think that the birds can recognize the pattern of their eggs. And you know, so it's, you know, like to say, it's a really smart man who recognizes his own kids. You know, but that's but somehow they think that the birds can recognize the pattern and recognize that that's their place. And then there's other things, regulate the light levels for the embryo development. And so they think that by observing the amount of light that's coming into the nest, you know, if you have a real dense coloration, it would block the UV light or some of the other lights. Or the other thing is that it might let more light through, and it would also change the way that the embryo develops. So so it regulates the light levels, and But the interesting thing about egg colors is there's only two pigments that work. Okay, so you can have a plain white egg, all right, or you can have there's this thing called protoferrin, which produces reddish brown colors, and there's biliverdin, which produces shades of blue and green. And so what you do is you get you know, you go down to the MAB place and you get the egg thing or the colored wheel, and you figure out how to mix up the right colors.
Yeah.
And the eggs get so they start off with a white egg. Okay, you got the basic calcium carbonate thing, and then you start adding colors to it. So you put the background color on, and then you add on the spots of different color or a combination of both. So you can, you know, so by adjusting the amount of coloration you know of the pigments, they can produce this, and that's really strange. I don't know how mom bird knows how to do that, but apparently it works, and so that's why you can see all kinds of variations, and then to go and get all the spotting and all the other stuff on there, that's really fantastic, and that all happens in the last couple hours that the egg is in the over duct coming down. Okay, so it's coming down and it's getting the Earl Scheib effect. so put on the flames and stuff like that on the side. But so in conclusion,
In conclusion.
what? Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So wow. So it's another one of those things that and there's more to it. It's kind of like keeping the birds at the proper temperature. For the embryo development. The other thing is things like why do the birds keep rotating the eggs? Well, that's so that baby won't end up with a flat head. Things like that. So there's a lot of stuff out there. So anyways, we're going to give this another try next week. I don't know what the topic's going to be, but it's going to be an interesting topic. So I'm going to go over some of the upcoming events. So we're going to be down there at Parkview Field there next week, Tuesday night. So visit us. We're going to be there. You can come on out, support the Tin Caps. Okay, going to be down at Wabashi at the Lunch and Learn. That's something that the park runs every month down there at Bluffton. So you might stop in there. We got the Ligonier's Library for the summer reading program. We got bird watching in Eckert Park in Auburn, and then we have the Three Rivers Dance Kids Dance Group, and we're going to be down there at Promenade Park. I don't know. My tutu doesn't fit anymore. I guess I've gotten a little, so I don't know what's going to happen there. We're going to be at the Goshen Public Library there on the 28th of June. And then in July, we start with Mercer County Library over there in Salina. On the 9th, we have the Garrett Public Library up here in Garrett on the 20th. And then we also have the Wells County 4-H Fair. So we get to see all the animals. And then, if you're a member of some of these other groups, we're going to be at Southwick Elementary on Friday. We have Camp Little Turtle. We got Cedar Creek Child Care coming up. We're going to have dinner with the ladies there at Presbyterian Chapel Lake. So look out for that. Oak Farm Montessori School, Camp C.O. Mollenhauer. That's going to be some fun out there. There's Jake's Day over there at the Isaac Walton League and a Little Praisers Preschool. So this is some stuff coming up. And come on out. Don't forget, we need fish for Jeff and Air and Poe, so they need some fish. And plus a couple other guys sneak some fish in there. And so don't forget, Opportunities for Teacher will be sending out a survey. And I guess it's what, Survey Monkey or Monkey Survey?
Survey Monkey.
Yes,
Okay. To teachers, particularly
Close.
homeschoolers. So there's some PGP possibilities this summer if you're not sick of school already, and some opportunities with science programs. Don't forget our Raptor Adventures come out. In fact, we have some people outside right now. They're waiting to go take the tours. I'm just really happy to see those folks. So we're all ready to get started. And there's Monet. And don't forget, we have programs available for schools, homeschoolers, community groups, scouts, churches, retirement homes, special events, birthdays, weddings, Eagle Awards, block parties, baby showers. Don't forget, Father's Day is coming up. So, so you can send Dad out here and let him have a good time looking at the hawks and stuff. And Amazon Smile, don't forget, when you purchase something from Amazon, to remember us. In fact, we just got a check from them for $151 for the last quarter. So I think that's great.
That's great. Yay!
So get out there and spend those checks or that you got from the government.
I've been trying to.
You've been trying to? Well, try harder. And don't forget, you got to go grocery shopping. So you remember your community rewards card. Remember us. So if you have a topic that you would like to have discussed, or if you want to get into more depth, you can email us. Send a message to us and say, hey, what's going on? I know there's some people that are really worried about BG up there, or is it GB? GB,
BG, I think.
It's BG. Yeah, that's what I think of BG. So BG's up there on top of the AP tower, and she was looking a little floored. She says, man, it's raining out here. So when I left this morning, but anyways, Mom and Dad are still taking care of her. Don't worry. They're out there, they're hunting, but also, it's just like us. They're not present all the time because they want to be away from the kid a bit. They can't be helicopter parents, okay? So they have to give the kid a break and give themselves a break, go out there. And so, but I noticed that Mom or Dad are coming back, checking on her every so often. And but she looks fat and happy, basically. But today she did look a little miserable, because it was kind of raining. She's kind of like, this isn't great, not good flying weather. So one of us is going to see you next week. I'm going to turn this over to Gigi next week. I'm going to be
Oh.
watching birds in Utah, so I'm going to be away for a bit. So,
Surprise.
Yeah, that's right. Bob's not going to be here next week.
so I'm not
So
going to be here next
you'll
week.
be in
so-
for a surprise.
Yeah, so it's going to be some fun. So if you got questions, I didn't
No
see any
question.
questions, and I'm going to say, hey, Judy down there in Australia, okay, and so some of those people out there on the West Coast. So I'm going to say goodbye, and this is Soarin Hawk off the
Okay.
air.
And I'm going to just pan over to
Oh,
our
yeah.
birds who are
Oh yeah,
here
see
today.
some birds
I was gonna
today.
say, yeah, I came
Yeah,
all the way
I'm out of here.
All righty.
I think I'm out of here.
So here we have Nicole and Air. Air is showing off his
Did we use
nice
overtime?
wings.
Sure did. We never get short.
So Air was
So it takes me.
outside today. Got a little bit of a shower.
Got here early.
And now he's inside drying off some. And we saw in the beginning of our program, we didn't see Jillian, but we saw Monet. And there's Monet, always entertaining us.
Yeah, very curious.
Yeah.
Did my count. So it's official.
So just wanted to say thanks everyone for tuning in. And we
Bye.
will see you maybe next week with a very short one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Bob. Not the same without
I
you.
want to see the Soarin Hawk Follies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you. Bye-bye.